Welcome to Pioneers in Payments, where payments experts share their insights. Now, here's our host, Donna Blum.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Pioneers in Payments. I am super excited about this episode because we're going to talk about something really innovative. And I have the pleasure today of speaking with Mike Draghici from PayByFace. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Donna, for having me on the show. This is super exciting.
Well, I'm excited too. So, Mike, before we get started, would you mind telling our audience a little bit about who you are, your background in the payments industry, and what you do at PayByFace?
Absolutely. I'm kind of a techie nerd. I started in the .com bubble and started building websites in my 20s, and I got really hooked on the whole internet thing. And then I got into mobile app development and been building software for the last 20 years, ever since MySpace took off. And I've loved building very leading edge innovation. So what happened with Pay by Face? It's kind of interesting story. I didn't think of getting into payments. I was more like web and mobile apps and games and all that stuff. And about 7 years ago, I came back to Bucharest, which I was born here, and I sat down at a coffee shop, and the lady came out after I was done drinking my coffee, and she was like, "How would you like to pay, cash or card?" And I looked at her and I was like, "Why don't I just pay with my face?" I mean, why not? And I could build it. I knew I could build something like that with gamification, making it fun. And the idea was pretty simple. It's just let's take payments beyond the transaction, because transactions are kind of boring. Payments are kind of boring. I don't know. I ain't gonna lie. And I was like, why don't let's make it fun. Like I could be Spider-Man and go shopping with my face and win points, and I don't have to carry my phone or my card or my wallet or anything.
Well, that's really interesting because I assumed that the way you pay by face is by using your phone.
Mm-mm. No, you just pay with your face.
So what is there a device of some sort that scans your face for recognition? I know I'm probably jumping ahead here. So before we go there, because I know you're going to cover it, let's just kind of go in order a little bit here. Um, so would you mind sharing a little bit about your background in payments though? Because I know you've had some involvement with the Fed and yeah, so what has been your history in the industry?
Sure. I didn't have too much involvement in the Fed. I worked for the ex-senior vice president of the Fed in San Francisco for about 7 years, but this was in the insurance business in the US. But of course, she was a brilliant lady and really helped me figure out extremely complex systems in a very simple manner, which was the lesson learned there. Her favorite thing was airports because airports are just crazy systems, and you can imagine trying to build turning your card into your face. It took me 7 years and almost 12 million lines of code. It's not a simple thing to do, and yeah, I had a lot of knowledge of how to think it through in a very global payment system architecture format from this person. And plus, I was asked to be subject matter experts on the future of payments at the Federal Reserve in Atlanta. I think one of your previous guests was the one who called me to be that sort of expert, and I had a panel of I think over close to 100 um, people from the Fed just listening to me talk about what I thought of the future of payments. So it's been fun.
That does sound like fun. And I love that. I've said this before on the podcast that really, if you can think it, there's probably a way to figure out how to do it. And that's where you fit in. It's like where the rubber meets the road is you come up with this idea, but how do you make it work in the real world, right? And you've taken this idea of pay by face and made it a reality. That's exciting.
Absolutely, and it's been a 7-year journey so far from the very first coffee shop that I launched in Bucharest, where you could literally walk in the front door and just pay with your face on an iPad. So you were asking earlier, how does it actually work? You clearly you have to sign up. I don't know who you are. So there's an app where you actually create your wallet, your digital wallet, take a selfie, put your card in there, and you set a face pin. And then after that, you just go into a store, and we used iPads. So there's an iPad, which is sort of like a soft pulse, and it turns on the camera, you scans you, and then it takes your payment from a card on file.
That's amazing. So it's this technology is actually in use in Bucharest, and where else have you deployed this technology?
So we thought of that this wasn't going to happen overnight. It was very experimental, especially after 2019. We had 2020 COVID, and so we had a year or 2 years of lockdowns and conspiracy theories and all kinds of stuff. So it wasn't a very quick scale up or adoption. We knew it's going to take some time. So we tested usability. We worked on the product quite a lot, trying to refine the ease of use, the speed, the of course security was like 3 years of work just went into security alone. And then we tried to. I went all over the world. I went to India. I went to South Africa. I went. I tried to launch it in as many different markets to test. Just one or two iPads in a coffee shop or a grocery store just to see what people thought. So I started with the customer first and then worked back to the technology, which took some time.
So you're it's still evolving. And I'm definitely pitching my questions at you entirely out of order, but I'm really curious about what's next then. Like, what is on the forefront? Who are you talking to now? Are you talking to folks here in the United States? Are we going to see this in a Starbucks anytime soon?
I really hope so. We do have 13 entities worldwide that we've set up, ready to go. There's a technical component of integrating a gateway. We've integrated 6 gateways worldwide. Like Heartland Payments is integrated, PayGenius in Africa, Viva Payments, even all the way up to MPGS in UAT. So basically, it's a gateway switch in the back. It's just like Uber. You can imagine getting into an Uber. You downloaded Uber in the US, you get in an Uber in Europe, but you don't have to download another app. It just, get in and get out. So, first and foremost was building the infrastructure, setting up the entities worldwide, the trademarks and the brand and the IP and all that stuff. So, that took most of the time. And now, which is really uh, attracting people to this new tech, is primarily the digital wallet initiative in Europe, the digital ID, digital wallet EUID, about digitizing your whole identity for clear reasons of, identity theft and things like that. And so now people are starting to be comfortable, more and more comfortable with their identity online. But there's a risk to that too. It's got to be done right. It's got to be controlled right. It's got to have good regulation and the the checks and balances from a technical data privacy perspective are really important, which aren't fully baked yet. Not nowhere really in the world is data privacy fully baked, so to speak. And so I think that's a significant barrier of entry for going mass scale. I think probably 2030 and beyond is really when we're going to start hitting critical mass on this kind of stuff. So we have a few coffee shop here. There's a one cookie restaurant. It's called a cookie brunch restaurant here that's up and running in Bucharest. We used to have 50 different stores like pharmacies, salons, coffee shops, but like I said, that was a very experimental. And then we went all over the world, did like music festivals in South Africa with like 8,000 people, where everything in the music festival was with your face. We tested it in Dubai with the banking, traditional pulse, turning a traditional pulse into a face payment device. on Android, um, and trying to figure out a way to make it very easy to install the app on any device, platform agnostic, with very simple camera hardware. You don't need fancy cameras or 3D scanning or any of that stuff. You just, install it on your phone or, and you're ready to go. We even had a drone in London that we upgraded the drone hardware with our software, and the drone could scan your face mid-flight and drop the pizza. So,
Wow, that's high tech.
yeah,
Well, I'm just thinking already, my brain's kind of dreaming a little about the use cases for it, and I could see anybody in the transportation, people who are getting on and off of subways or trains, or maybe toll roads, and they don't even have to stop at a device because the camera overhead can just scan their face in their car and they can keep on going. And um, yeah, I think the sky's the limit. So, Mike, you're on to something here. I can definitely see. And I think what's really cool about it is that as consumers learn about this, right, they're going to be like, did you know you can pay by face? They're going to start asking their retailers. They're going to start asking, their coffee shop, their whatever, fill in the blank, and say, hey, have you ever looked into this pay by face technology? And so it's kind of almost like a grassroots type of thing. You can get that, create that pull from, from consumers.
absolutely. And we tested that reaction. With Visa, we were in the Visa Innovation Program in Bulgaria. We were in the Global Mastercard Checkout Program, the first cohort. We were in Startup Amsterdam Bootcamp, and we tested many different use cases and trying to see what people's reactions were when they went up to the counter and paid with their face. Like some people got goosebumps. They were like, "What? Did I just do that?" And it's very addictive. So we actually saw that once I get you to try it once, there's an 80% chance that you'll come back and do it again.
Yeah, that's great. I could see that. Definitely with the younger generations, like the baby boomers, they might be a little bit more suspicious about that whole thing. But yeah, I can definitely see, the younger generations being just super excited about it. And just this, we often talk on this podcast about reducing friction, right, in payments. I mean, talk about that being frictionless, right? I mean, once you're in the system and your card's on file and your face has been recorded, how hard is it just to look at a device and let it scan your face and payments made? That's awesome. So let's get into sort of the meat of the podcast, though. So we're really here talking more to our audience, which is um, payments professionals, people who work in all different areas of the payment ecosystem. But they are sort of more on the operational side, right? So if you had to share with our audience what you think the most notable trend is in the industry today, what is that?
So I think it's this idea of digital wallets. The legacy, I have a wallet, a physical wallet out of leather with like 10 cards in there. And I've started, putting them into like Apple Pay, on my phone and virtualizing that card because I don't want a giant, literally a wallet in my back pocket. And I think that trend of digitizing the traditional wallet, I'm a software guy, so I say legacy wallet. Um, I think that's the trend. Now that we all have at least one or two devices, one or two smartphones, I have two phones, so why do I need another wallet? And I can do everything with my phone that the wallet has in it, from all my cards, my club cards, my membership at the gym, and everything can be in my phone apps or whatever. And I think the eventually you saw Facebook just came out with sunglasses now that replace the phone. So I think this trend of digital wallets is probably the hottest topic in the industry. the use cases of digital wallets are quite extensive, not just a credit card or a bank card. So yeah, I think that's where it's at.
I like the convenience, like when I'm traveling, that I have my reservation QR code in my wallet. It's super easy to get to, and just scan that when you're getting on the plane. You're right. There are unlimited number of use cases, I think, for wallets. Um, I, I I just went with my mother the other day to a store, and she had to show her ID for some reason, but she had one of those little zipper cases, and then she fanned out probably no less than 30 different cards. And I'm like, okay, that's just crazy. I don't know that I'm going to get her to change, but there is no reason that we should be carrying around 30 little pieces of plastic and having to weed through them to find the right one. Yeah, we've progressed beyond that. Okay, so that's the most notable trend. So when you think about the industry as a whole, what would you say is the top opportunity today for organizations that process payments?
I think AI is already here, and the idea, first it was all about like automation, process automation, but now it's becoming intelligent automation where it can do things for us, and a lot of the big networks are launching, agentic payment robots and all this stuff. Like you just tell it, hey, I want a discounted cooler for my fishing trip, go find it for me on the internet, and it just shows up at your door, and I think that idea of AI and payments, whatever that might turn into, whether that means we don't no longer have browsers where we go on a website and search through a virtual mall of pages of things to find to buy, and then we put our credit card in there, check out or whatever. I think the interface of payment is going to be streamlined with this idea of AI backing it all up.
I think you're right. In fact, I'm sort of working on an article idea about, you know, once you have all of your payments data consolidated and enriched, and it's obviously so much power available if you can analyze all the trends, and um, you get the idea. But an AI tool can now take all that data, and I think we can just feed it very conversational questions like, where should I open my next bank branch? And it'll just spit out information that'll help you to make that decision, and you don't have to be a programmer or a specialist in data analysis. I don't know. Again, sky's the limit with that. AI is amazing.
Yeah, and just to touch on that, we're already working on something called Eva kiosk, which is a like a kiosk, like a McDonald's kiosk, to it's touchscreen, and it's got a lady on there, like an avatar, and you just walk up to it. And we connected it to an ATM here in our lobby, and I just tell it, "Can I take out $100?" And it takes the money out of the machine. It looks at my face, it looks my account up, and I don't have to touch anything. I don't have to put anything. I don't have to do anything. I just tell it, "Give me $100 right now," and it'll take it out of the ATM. So
Wow,
it's pretty
that's
cool.
incredible. I love it. I love it. Okay, so let's talk about the biggest challenge for payment organizations right now.
Cost. The cost has always been a challenge in all verticals of payments. Moving money, sending money, getting money, everything has a cost associated to it. Especially, when cl- building a new payment method at the retail point of sale, the biggest problem that we heard from merchants was the fees. And there's a lot of people involved in the movement of money, from issuing to acquiring, and all the networks it's got to go through, and all the, oh, you can imagine, it's crazy. So I think streamlining the infrastructure of payments, and now we're starting to get account to account, just I have my money in my bank account. It's got to get to your bank account. Let's just move it from one bank to another. Uh, that seems to be picking up steam, and I think everyone is clearly doing it a business here, trying to save costs. So that seems to be the biggest challenge in payments, in my opinion.
I think you might be the first person that has ever answered that question with cost, but it makes so much sense. I mean, there are so many people with their hands in the cookie jar. So, and every person with their hand in the cookie jar is just increasing the cost of every transaction. And if you can eliminate the number of people that are, reaching into the cookie jar, the costs go down.
Yeah, or just take them out completely because they're unnecessary.
They're unnecessary. Yeah, just go to from point A to point B and cut out all the middlemen. Yeah. Now, some of our clients might not like that idea too much. That's what their business is built on, right? Is them being the middleman. Yeah. So, anyways,
Well,
but
I mean, everyone has a role, of course. Everyone's important right now, but that's because we haven't evolved in probably in security, data privacy, and operational labor to reduce anything there.
and as you mentioned cost too, I'm thinking about just all of the work that has to go into fraud mitigation and security, and that's expensive, right? So the more people you have, or organizations, I should say, uh, along the payment life cycle, you have to do fraud prevention at each of those points. That gets expensive.
Yeah, double-edged sword.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Mike, I'm looking forward to learning what you come up with in future to just eliminate all of that.
Yeah, we're working on it. So, I mean, like I said, the idea was to take payments beyond the transaction. That was the motto of this whole thing. Like, let's just make payments fun again and cheap. I don't know.
Maybe
So
less transactional and more interactive, right?
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so if you had to really just kind of sum up everything that you know about what's happening in the industry today and provide our audience with one silver bullet piece of advice, what would that be?
Um, I There's going to be a moment where everything is going to change. That we know. It's like everything is going to change. I'm not sure when that moment is or what it's gonna what's gonna happen, but I think AI is a driving force here. Um, and it's kind of hard to explain because something like this has never really happened to anyone before. And but one security blanket we have from all this, we wake it up one day and something's off, is that cash is not going away. I don't think cash is going away. So they're like, for example, the event that happened in Portugal where the infrastructure, electricity, they had a blackout. You can't do anything because everything is digital right now. You couldn't take money out of the ATM because the ATM is off, and the internet is off and your phone is off. And so it's like, whoa. um we have to watch out for that with the silver bullet because so many innovative um concepts are being implemented right now, from biometrics to digital wallets to fancy interfaces and automated experiences that all have to run on a backbone driven by the financial infrastructure and government. And we have to be very careful how we handle this silver bullet.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're right. Um, yeah, honestly, I think sometimes about this, not that I'm living in fear or anything like that, but what if there was a total blackout for a number of days? It would be anarchy, right? But
It'd be tough. It would be tough.
I think you're right. I think there's always going to be a place for cash.
Yeah, that's kind of what I guess it's, summarizing is like we're always looking forward, but we have to also mitigate the risks of what we're building. Let's if we're going to dedicate ourselves to a fully digital experience, we also have to, think about the non-digital side because there always has to be that backup plan.
So, Mike, this has been super interesting, and I know that our audience is probably going to have some more questions for you and would maybe want to learn more about Pay by Face. What information would you like to share? How can they get in touch with you or learn more?
Absolutely. So right now I'm in Bucharest. I'm Chief Innovation Officer at Power Dynamic Technologies. We've partnered with them to launch PayByFace in Europe, but our site paybyface.io is our primary site, and you can find me on LinkedIn under Mihai Draghici, or Mihai at paybyface.io.
And I'm just going to put in a plug for an organization that I'm a part of, the U.S. Faster Payments Council. Mike, I think it would be so cool if you came and spoke at one of those events and kind of shared about this technology. We've been talking a lot about QR codes, but I think this puts QR codes to shame.
Sure, I'd love to. That'd be awesome.
All right. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time, Mike. Really appreciate it. And I want to thank everybody for watching today. Have a great day.